this recording that I'm making of this, I will put it onto YouTube and email you the YouTube link. So you can, if you want to go back and look at it, or if you want your kids to see this, or if you want to share it with whoever, I'll make it very easy for you to share it. And just for documentation purposes, I'm Arden Compton. Today is March 30th, 2022, and we're interviewing Bruce Compton. He's going to be sharing with us some of his videos, and we have Terry Compton with us and Nancy Compton Wilson and her daughter, Leah Wilson Wilcox Compton. Can we put a Compton in there somewhere, Leah?
Yes, please. I hope you will. Hey, Mom.
Hi, Leah. Good to see you.
Oh, here.
I like that the person that's speaking comes in large.
Okay, is that how you got it set now?
Yeah, it happened when
Okay.
Nancy said.
Good. Kamillia just joined us.
Although it's not videos, it's memories. Sharing memories, not videos.
Oh, did I say videos?
You did.
Well, we'll make a video of the memory. So, but I wanted to, and welcome Kamillia. I'm going to do a screen share because I want to show you, Bruce, something I've been working on that you can contribute to. And that is, we have a family, I've started a family Google Drive. And on this, we have, I've been collecting documents and photos of the family. And so, for instance, here are photos of you that I have found. And if you want to send any more photos of you, you can. In fact, I even put this one on there the other day. It was.
Wait a minute, Artie, go back to that previous picture.
Well, hang on. I just wanted to show Bruce. I have this little Facebook.
I know,
clip.
but you were showing pictures of Bruce, but one of them was me. I happen to know that the face recognition gets Bruce and me mixed up.
Okay, which one is you?
Far right on the top.
This one this one is you?
The far right on the top, that's me. I've already had experience with this. The facial recognition cannot distinguish between me and Bruce all the time.
Or I might have just labeled it wrong.
No, actually, I've already had experience with it, Artie.
I know facial recognition gets mixed up, and so do I.
Yeah, well, anyway, just pointing it out that facial recognition confuses Marcel and Kamillia and me and Bruce.
Okay. Anyway, so Bruce, if you guys want to email, and I just emailed you my email.
Okay. All right.
And Lanaea, Nancy's daughter, is going to join us. This is like moving really slow, probably because of the fact that I'm on Zoom. I tried to, well, I'll fix that photo later. Anyway.
Artie, I'm so sorry, but I've lost your picture. Should I go out and come back in?
You know, I guess so, because I don't know. I can't tell what's happening.
Okay, I'll leave and come back. Okay.
Okay.
What's
That was Kamillia. I'm trying to go to. I was trying to show you more. There we go. Anyway, I can. There's. I've got a few thousand photos on here. And I want to be able to share them with everybody and have this be a resource for everybody. I'm just scrolling through really quickly right now. But any photos you want to add, Bruce, to this photo collection would be welcome. And I'm happy to give links to share what's here with everybody else. That's the whole point. Here comes Kamillia again, is to have this be like a database for the family that everybody can access. So there you go.
Well, I missed that, so.
Well, you already know about it, Kamillia.
Okay. Did you find, and Bruce, do you have perhaps, there is a picture of you sitting on Aunt Lita's steps leading to her kitchen. And you are probably 2 years old. You're a chunky little boy, and you're sitting on the back steps of Aunt Lita's house. So, Terry, Artie, did you find that one?
No, I never found it.
Okay, are you familiar with what I'm talking about, Bruce?
No, I'm not. I don't have a good memory back that far.
I thought you might have the picture, however. Well, I've seen it, I know it, and I'll keep looking for it myself. Am I causing that kind of funny sound? In fact,
Maybe. I'm
I
not
hear-
sure.
I hear
Somebody
myself.
Somebody
Kamillia,
started giggling.
Yeah, I see your forehead better than the rest of you.
That's the better part.
Well,
seem-
okay, so I'm gonna just say that the main purpose of this call is to hear Bruce's stories. And Bruce,
Yes.
if you have questions if you want other people to clarify, if you have questions, or if somebody wants to add a clarification, but I want to emphasize Bruce has the floor. I'll be quiet. And Bruce, whatever family memories you want to share with us.
Very good. Well, I had a lot of memories, but now that there's people who can contest them, I'm not sure if we really have any or not.
They're, they're your memories.
It was just me in my head. Anyway, my memories start back in Anaconda,
Ah,
Montana,
mhm.
a very desolate place. It was, we lived in a cracker box house, although I think a cracker box might have been an upgrade.
And you about what age are you thinking of, Bruce? Do you know about what age you would have been?
I don't, maybe 4 or 5.
4 years old would be it because I was 6 at the time.
And Anaconda, Montana was right just a couple of degrees away from the North Pole. Very cold. Breeze about winds would come flowing through about 40 miles an hour and 40 below, and we'd be outside playing. I don't remember a time when it was too cold to go outside. We'd go outside and play all the time. And we probably didn't have a lot of warm wear to put on either, but we sure did a lot of playing back there. But that was a mining town for Kennecott copper.
Oh,
And I don't know, I think it must have been because Dad was involved with the Boy Scouts. That's why we were there, because he was not involved with the mining.
Bruce, I don't believe that was Kennecott, but it was a copper mining outfit, but I'm not sure it was Kennecott, but that's not important.
Yeah, I'm quite sure it is. I worked for Kennecott later. I was, anyway, they were mining copper.
I could be mistaken.
And us children would go, there was an ore car that would run through taking ore from one place in the mine to another. And we would go out there and put rocks on the tracks.
Bruce,
the-
I think it was pennies.
No, that
We
was
did both.
in Yakima.
Okay.
And then we put rocks on the track because we were trying to make this face powder, you know, I forget what it's called, but anyway, we put rocks on the track and the train would run over them. But the conductor would stop the train and get out and chase us down the street.
Hmm.
Kind of a game, I guess we played, but one of the things that really stands out in my mind about that time was I had a tricycle, or there was a tricycle, I don't know whose it was, but the bushing on the front wheel was worn out, and I would get so mad at that tricycle because I could not get it to go, because the wheel would just wobble back and forth because the bushing was gone out of the front wheel. But another thing that happened there, Dad went elk hunting with another couple of other guys, and if he didn't take his hunting license with him, and Mom was just totally upset because she was so concerned that he might actually shoot an elk and not have a license, and then, you know, end up in trouble. She worried and worried over that until he came back with, of course, he didn't ever shoot an elk. Sure would have been nice if he had. Probably could have used the food, but I'm not really sure about this memory, but there was something about a board with a nail in it that I put on the couch so Terry could sit on it.
Put a what
Uh,
on the couch?
A board with a nail in it. Do
Oh,
you remember that, Terry?
No, I have no recollection of that particular thing.
Well, Terry, Terry
It was
doesn't have,
apparently you did it, I didn't, so I don't remember it.
I was
I do remember the railroad track business quite well.
attempting to get even with him for something, but
With who? Who were
there
you
was
trying to
no-
get even with?
huh?
Who were you trying to get even with?
You?
Me? Oh,
I
I
have
was the
no-
one that sat on the nail?
Yeah. So I
Oh,
think
well,
I think
I
you
don't
would.
think I have any sensitivity in that part of my body.
It's a very penetrating experience, really. Anyway,
I don't
so
know. I don't remember
there was
it.
also a group of boys, and one of them found a 22 shell that was live, and we put it in the center, and all the boys were throwing rocks at it, and it actually went off, which
oh,
is quite a phenomenon all by itself, and hit one of the boys in the leg. And I think he had trouble with that for a long time, so that was a very unpleasant thing.
Yeah, I can confirm that memory too. And I believe that bullet lodged in him and there was quite a bit of problem with either causing infection or something.
Yeah.
And I think that was the real problem.
If we picked up any of the local lingo and happened to remember it, repeat it in front of our mother, we had our mouth washed out with soap. So we were quite often foaming at the mouth. And I'd
Speak for
go play.
yourself, Bruce, speak for yourself. I don't remember that either.
I'd go play with the other children and they'd do something that I didn't like, be mean to me somehow. And I'd come home crying to mom and she'd console me a little bit. And I'd just go right back and play. And she'd say, why are you going to go play with those same children that were mean to you just a few minutes ago? But I had a very short memory. I was always ready to go at it again. So anyway, that's the sum and substance of Anaconda as far as my memory goes. Although I just had another memory. There was a swing set. And I remember some of the big children trying to swing far enough to loop clear around. And that was pretty dangerous. So then Toppenish would be my next memory, 602 South Beach Street, Toppenish, Washington.
it's interesting. None of us forget that particular address.
Well,
Go
we
ahead.
stayed there longer than most other places too. So,
so you would have been
somewhere,
about how old when you moved there?
about 6 or so.
Okay.
At some point, and I'll just interject this because I don't know when it was, but we took a trip to Grandma and Grandpa Chandler's house.
Yes.
I remember that very well. I think we slept on a porch that had a screened-in porch. As I recall, that was where we slept. And I always remember Grandpa Chandler, first thing in the morning, sitting at the table, eating a stack of pancakes, listening to the news. And
I can confirm that.
Huh?
I say I can confirm Grandpa listened to the news.
And also, he milked a cow first thing early in the morning, and run the milk through a cream separator. I remember that.
Yep.
And he rode a bicycle. He worked for the railroad and rode a bicycle to work every day. And I remember also, Mom had a brother, what's his name, Richard, Kamillia, that died of whatever the plague.
Yes. Well,
And
she had two brothers, Bruce and Richard. Bruce died. He was the last child. Is that the one?
Both of them were dead at the time, though.
Yes. So
are you talking about a living brother or a dead brother?
Dead one, the one that died, and I still see the window where they couldn't. It was such a scary thing. Nobody wanted to go in and out of the door. They were very careful.
I think that was Richard. That would have been Richard. but go ahead.
They had to put him through a window. And I can still see that window that they put him through after he was dead in order to minimize the contact with other people. So that's it for, no, the other thing about Weiser, the high school had a fire escape from the second story of the, it wasn't a high school, it was a school, I'm not sure. Anyway, that was a very fun slide. We used to slide down that fire escape. And that was really fun because it was quite a long, well, at least it was at my age, it seemed like it was pretty long and kind of scary. There was a brick building, red brick building. I can still see the building. So then back to Toppenish, Washington. Lots of memories there because we stayed there for quite a while. Dad bought a station wagon that was, the outside part was wood. That was lacquered wood, very pretty. I've seen one in a car show where they rebuilt it, and it was just like that station wagon he had. And there was a time when the lacquer was waning, and he had us all out there sanding on it so they could re-lacquer it. Really a pretty station wagon. And while we were there, we inherited Grandpa Chandler's bicycle, which that's how I learned to ride a bicycle. And Terry was working as a water boy for the strawberry pickers and earned enough money to buy him a fancy new Schwinn bicycle. So then I guess we had two bicycles. Grandpa's bicycle was really nice, but Terry's was really fancy. And he also
had spring action, Bruce, which was the
Yeah.
thing of the day, spring action. Go ahead.
we also inherited his American Flyer sled, a black sled, beautiful sled that we used to sleigh ride with. I remember sleigh riding with it the most in Yakima, which comes on later, but Kamillia loved horses and collies.
True.
Pardon? I didn't hear that.
Kamillia loved horses and collie dogs.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had some interactions with a boyfriend, or a friend that was a boy who had a horse. And he took me for a ride one time. And I didn't have a good, I was sitting behind him. I'm not aware that there was ever a saddle. Sitting behind him and holding on for dear life. That was a pretty scary ride because he just took off running real fast. And
Do you recall, Bruce, was this the big black horse or just one of the other horses? Did you hear me, Bruce?
I did not.
I just wondered if you recalled which horse, if it was the big black one or not.
I thought it was a red one. I mean, that's my memory of it being a red one.
So it probably wasn't the big black one. Okay, go ahead, please.
And every spring, Mom would have us, Terry and I, go out and spade up the garden. We'd go out and spade up the garden, which she never planted as far as I can remember. But we had to go spade it up anyway, just in case. That was a pretty big project with shovels turning over the dirt in her to plant a garden. Terry and I cut wood with a two-man saw with not very good coordination. So it didn't work very well. Unless you push and pull at the right time, it doesn't work very well. Dad bought a goat, nanny goat, which he brought in the house to milk when it was storming. And that nanny goat, it was pestered too much, so it chased us children up a tree. And we were afraid of that nanny goat because of that. Dad raised rabbits for a while. He didn't do it for very long because he couldn't stand to hear them scream when it came butchering time. So that was a kind of a short-lived thing. But I remember the rabbit pens on the back side of the barn. And feeding the rabbits with rabbit pellets and stuff like that. We had a wood burning stove, and my job was to fill up the wood box with wood. One time I thought I could escape that responsibility and went off to school without doing it. And Mom sent one of the older children after me and told me to come back. So I had to walk back. We walked to school, and it was uphill both ways, snow 2 feet deep or more, whatever. So it was cold country, Toppenish, and had lots of snow. So anyway, I remember it being a very snowy day, and I walked back and filled up the box. Mom, we had a washing machine, the old style wringer washers with 2 tubs for rinsing. And it was my job to empty the tubs of the water after she was done washing. And that was always a challenge for me to drain it into a bucket and take it out of the back porch and dump it. Afton climbed a lot and fell a lot and bumped her head a lot. She had a lot of head bumping falls. I think Terry dived into the coal bucket. I'm not sure if that memory is right or not. I jumped off of something and had my tongue between my teeth, which came down on my knee when I hit the floor. And from what have no memory of it, that this is what I've heard, that it severed my tongue except for a little bit of a thread. And Mom immediately called 911 and rushed me to the hospital. Now, she stuck a rag in my mouth, and that was it. It healed up, and it still works. So whatever she did, it still works.
Wow.
Dad would bring extra change. When he had extra change, he'd put it on his dresser, and I wasn't familiar with the process. And I thought I'd found a gold mine. I thought, oh, wow, look at these half dollars and quarters. And so I started to claim them and keep them until I was instructed that that was not mine to keep it. We had a Victrola wind-up record player where you wind it up and it played those records that were about 1/4 of an inch thick and easily breakable, and listen to Uncle Remus telling stories on that wind-up Victrola. That was a lot of fun.
I wish we still had it.
It'd be worth a bunch.
Yep, it would be.
There was, back to the wood. Lanny came and lived with us for a while, and Grandma Compton did too. Grandma Compton, the thing that stands out in my mind is she loved to eat fat. Whenever we had meat, she loved to eat the fat. And why she would eat the fat when she was carrying so much around with her, I don't know. But anyway, Lanny was there.
Did she like that?
Lanny was there for a while. And Lanny was kind of cocky. If Mom fixed dessert, he would put his dessert up on the fridge. He would wait till all of us finished eating our dessert. Then he would bring his out and eat it in front of us and torment us. Because we were never full. I mean, we were never complete. We could have eaten a lot more. But then he was also going to show us how to cut wood with a hatchet. So out in the barn, he's sitting Indian style, squatting on the floor, going to show us how to cut wood with a hatchet. And he missed the wood and hit his leg. So he had a pretty good gash in his leg.
This was Lanny?
That was Lanny, yeah. I think he's matured a little since then, but that reminds me of Terry was going to show us how to throw firecrackers. And as he's showing us how to throw firecrackers, reached just behind himself, his hand let loose of it and the firecracker went down the back of his shirt. And he fell out of the willow tree. Terry did.
Oh.
Had a really nice willow tree in the backyard.
Yeah, Camille was talking about that in one of her things, but she thought it was a cherry tree, but I was pretty sure it was a willow tree. So you
It was-
confirmed that it was a willow
It was
tree.
a willow tree, and he fell, the clothesline was right underneath it, and he caught his chin on the clothesline. And
You're right.
flipped him onto his back. So
Is this in Toppenish or Yakima? Because we had,
we're still in Toppenish. We're still in Toppenish.
okay.
And actually, I thought it was an apricot tree, but
Oh, apricot. Okay, whatever.
The apricot tree was on the fence line between us and Johnson's Motor Hotel.
Mm.
Also, there was grapes there. And there was always this confusion in our minds. We tried to claim it all as children. But those grapes were so good. You remember eating those grapes off the grapevine? And the apricots off the apricot tree were just delicious, really good.
In some ways, Bruce, you've got much better memory than I do. It's pretty amazing how you're remembering things that some things I don't remember, other things I remember very well.
Well, remember the time when we were over at Johnson's Motor Hotel? I think that was the name of it.
Yeah,
And
it was.
somebody had left a 6-pack of RC cola sitting on the sidewalk. And cola was taboo, but we decided to try, whoever was with me, a little bit of RC cola. That was a big binge, but that wasn't as big a binge as the case of beer
Yeah.
that we found out on the road. A
Mhm.
whole case of beer. It was Indian, what do you call those places where Indians go?
Reservation?
Reservation town. It was an Indian reservation town, and there was a lot of drinking going on. And we would probably Terry and I would take our wagon and go along and pick up the empty beer bottles because they were redeemable. So we made some pretty good income for children by picking up a wagon load. We had a gunny sack. We'd fill this gunny sack in the wagon with beer bottles, and oh, it was really a treasure when we found a quart, because a quart was worth more than a pint. And that was really fun for me. I just really enjoyed that. It's like later years when I learned about the catalytic converters, how I could go pick up these catalytic converters for a little bit of nothing or whatever, and go redeem them, so to speak, down the road and make a really nice income. So anyway, we'd pick them up and take them to the local tavern.
Dad did that, didn't he?
I remember us doing that. I don't know about that.
Did we do it ourselves?
I remember me doing it. Yeah.
I remember Dad was the bishop and he was taking them to the tavern, I thought.
Yeah. Well, anyway, my memory is that I was doing it and whoever was with me, and we made some pretty good money doing that.
So what did you do when you found a 6-pack of beer that hadn't been drunk?
Well, that was a real,
you probably can't remember.
yeah, I can remember. Somebody went home to find a church key. There were several of us there, and somebody went home to find a church key. You know what a church key is? I mean, that's what we called it back then, and that's how you open beer bottles.
Oh, a bottle opener.
And so it's out there alongside the road. It's very warm. And it was a pretty good cure for never wanting to drink it again. And so we just left it there, I believe, after we gagged on a little sip of it. There was irrigation ditches that ran over the canal, slough, what they call those? Anyway, there was places where we would go swim that I'm sure if Mom knew where we were.
Excuse me, Bruce, they were called gravel pits.
Gravel pits?
Yeah,
Are you thinking of the irrigation ditch or are you
Well,
thinking of the gravel pit?
No,
Because
when they would take
There was-
the irrigation water and run it over the plants, and then someone run off and then they run it into the gravel pits. That's my understanding.
Okay, I didn't know where it went. I remember there was a canal, and then
Yeah.
these tubes would cross over the canal to take the water to the other side of the canal. And we'd go swimming in those places, which is, I'm sure was very dangerous, but we didn't think much of it. Mom didn't keep real close tabs on us. She was a worrier, but where we were wasn't one of the things she worried about. So anyway, that was fun and dangerous, and we all survived. However, the baker boy next door, the bakers lived across the street from us. And is it Leslie Baker?
Yes.
Kamillia? Leslie Baker and a group of teenagers, and I don't know who else was with him, took a swimming tour in a pond somewhere, and Leslie Baker drowned. I remember a group of us children sitting on the front porch and somebody coming by and telling us that Leslie had drowned. And that was quite a memorable experience.
yeah,
The Bakers were an interesting family. They lived very, very poorly. They had no running water.
Mm.
They had an outhouse outside. And on the back porch, they had a hand pump, and that's how they pumped their water up. And that's where I learned about priming the pump, how important it is to prime the pump.
Mm.
But the people that lived next door to them, the German couple, made their own beer. And they would put it in bottles and containers and then put it in a cellar under the house. And periodically we'd hear those bottles exploding. And there was all kinds of stories about weird things they do that probably weren't true or not. Remember the alley? Remember the alleyway behind the baker's outhouse?
Yep,
yeah.
I remember. Mexicans live back there a lot.
That's
Yeah,
just kind of a nice place with an alley. You don't see alleys very much anymore in places, in towns. But the alley, the houses would all face the main street, and the back part of the house would face an alley.
Mhm.
That's where people would take their garbage to be picked up, and deliveries and stuff would take place in the alley rather than in the front of the house. So I've always been one to retire or enter a sleep state as soon as the sun goes down. Mom would say, as soon as the sun goes down, I'd have to go look for Bruce. I'd find him under a bed, in a closet somewhere. And, it's always, I mean, I don't go at sundown per se, but it's shortly after. But everybody would torment me. I'd be sleeping on the couch because that's where I'd go to sleep first. And people would torment me, wake up, Bruce, wake up, Bruce, wake up and go to bed. And I couldn't quite wake up, and they'd just keep after me until I was insane. So it's all their fault. Anyway. And I remember Dad picking me up, and I suppose he did others sometimes, to carry me upstairs to bed. And what would he say about a penny? I'll give you a penny if you go to sleep.
I can't recall.
And he would shake me every once. Are you asleep yet? And then he'd go a few more steps. Are you asleep yet? I'll give you a penny to go to sleep. Are you asleep yet? That was this ritual of taking me upstairs to us, I suppose, upstairs to go to bed.
Hmm.
Daddy sold at the time was he had been a Boy Scouts, but he began a job as an agent for Beneficial Life. And Afton and Ralph Hill was the manager of the area that he was a salesman in. Remember Afton and Ralph and Afton coming to see us one time in their big, beautiful Nash. It was a big, beautiful Nash, really big car. And I really liked their daughter. guess her name wasn't Afton. I'm not sure what it was. But anyway, that was my first kiss, was with her.
Did
And
she
you were,
kiss you?
Upstairs
kissed?
behind a chest of drawers.
Oh, my goodness. So who kissed who?
We kissed each other, I guess.
Okay.
How old were you?
7, maybe. We lived in Toppenish for a couple of years, which was unusual. More than a couple, wasn't it, Kamillia? About
Yes, I
6 years?
think we lived there. Let's see, I think we moved there in 47 and we moved in 50 or 51.
That's right. So he
So-
would have been somewhere around 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, 6 to 8, 9 in the Toppenish era. We had a lot of fun, didn't we? Playing kick the can
Yes,
and stuff outside at night. There was a light pole that had a light on it out at the corner of the street, and we played outside a lot.
and
lot
we played in the dark in the winter and in the summer. Do you remember making the oh, let's see, what was it called? Fox and geese, the ring in the snow where we had to make the big ring and then chase each other in that space? No?
I don't remember that, no.
Well, anyway, we were outdoors kids at night.
Yeah, we were. It was nice and cool.
We
at
were
night.
outdoors kids all the time, pretty much.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Me and Bruce were.
Yeah, the TV wasn't really working very well then, so. No
We didn't
video game, no nothing.
Hey, Bruce, do you remember us playing marbles?
Oh, I love marbles.
And
Marbles
do you,
are like little jewels.
oh, they were. And do you remember, we used to play what we called pots, which was we
Yeah.
put mother's pots in the kitchen on the floor and toss marbles into them.
Oh, I don't remember playing pots. I remember playing, make a circle and putting our marbles in a circle and then
Yeah.
trying to knock them out and whatever we could knock out. And then some ornery children one time grab dates and run. They'd grab up all the marbles and take off and run and steal everybody's marbles. But
Oh,
there was a guy on the corner, to the, would have been to the east of the house, I believe. The house, I think, probably faced north. To the east of the house that had some marbles up in an attic, a bag of marbles, and he gave them to us. Do you remember that? That bag of marbles was just like pure gold. And they were beautiful Aggies and stuff like that, and
mhm.
marbles were a lot of fun.
You
Like
know, I don't suppose you boys remember that Marcille was a marble champion.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay.
She didn't let us forget.
Do you remember, Bruce, helping Grandma to clean the upstairs where we met for church in Toppenish?
Oh, yeah. Met over the top of J.C. Penney.
Yeah, well, whatever, or J.C. Penn or whatever.
J.C. Penney, we had to clean up all the beer cans in order to have church and stuff because from the party the night before. Whoever was there. before.
Did you make any money cleaning up the beer cans from the night before?
I don't remember making any money on that. The people that were taking care of the building were really really nice. And that's the first they took me, us, I don't know who, and showed us a picture. It was the first time that they had come up with a picture that looked the same, whether you moved to the right or to the left. Remember that picture that they had hanging on their wall? And it was done in such a way, it was a new technique and done in such a way that it had a whole different appearance.
So was it like the person in the picture was looking at you no matter where you were standing kind of thing?
Right. And the fans didn't have any shields on them. Remember those dangerous fans they had up there with no shields, no protectors on them? But I remember standing on the chair at church just singing my heart out.
Oh, do you? Hmm.
Do you remember the trips that we made on our bicycles out to the slaughterhouse?
I do have a memory of that, yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah, I have a vague memory of that, not a complete memory, but now that you mention it, yeah. But I
We
love
went all
going to
kinds,
church.
we went all kinds of places that Mom didn't know about.
I love going to church, though, and I love singing the songs. I have a grandson named Joshua he reminds me of me when I was about that age, where he just really puts it out there.
Hmm.
Anyway, Toppenish was quite a memorable place. And from Toppenish, we moved to Yakima, 4409 West Chestnut Street.
Yes, correct. The big
Oh,
city.
I guess I'm the one that's wrong. I remembered it as 4404, but doesn't matter. You can see it either way.
Well, actually, in this case, it was 4409.
At 4409 West Chestnut Street.
Right.
And that's where Terry broke his arm. Did he fall out of a tree or something?
Well,
And-
we built as a clubhouse, Bruce, and it was 2-story. And I was in the top story and I backed off the back end of it.
Oh,
Was the story.
Dad had us selling stuff all the time. Like in Yakima, he had us selling a pump for a ketchup bottle. Terry was able to sell the most because he could use his arm as a sympathetic introduction, you know. So Terry sold more ketchup pumps. I remember eating Mars bars and stuff like that the first time in Yakima, I think it was. I mean, candy was not, a candy bar was a special occasion. And in Toppenish, I remember a loaf of bread was 10 cents. And a candy bar, I think, was 2 cents.
Mm.
Remember that persimmon tree in Toppenish? And
No.
we mowed.
I thought that was in Yakima.
No, the persimmon tree was in Toppenish, and
Oh, yeah, we did have one there in Toppenish too. That's right.
we mowed the lawn with the real type mowers.
Right.
That's all we had was real type mowers. But I remember standing, doing something, and Dad's leaving, and every time he'd say the same thing. I'd say, "Where are you going?" Do you remember what he would say?
What?
"I'm going to see the Queen of England."
I don't remember.
Okay, so then he's coming back, and he'd have a sack and say, "What's in the sack, Dad?" Do you remember what he would say? He said the same thing every time.
What?
A loaf of bread and a pound of butter. Always a loaf of bread and a pound of butter, which was his, backdoor way of saying none of your business. But anyway, that was, the cherry tree there in Toppenish. Oh, those cherries were good. And Mom's tulips. Mom loved tulips. Remember the tulips?
I love those tulips and the
Tulips.
lilacs and the carnations. And,
Yeah, the tulips were
I
her
remember the carnations really well.
and also the iris. Do you remember, Bruce? There was
Yeah.
all along the driveway were all those iris. And it was really a very floral and fruity place.
I remember the tulips, the stuff there underneath the cherry tree the most. I mean, around the area of the cherry tree. And I
Right.
remember climbing up the cherry tree, eating, right off the cherry tree, ripe.
Didn't we
Mhm.
also have a walnut tree?
I think we did a black walnut tree.
Yeah,
It was-
black walnut tree.
It was just to the back of the house at the end of the driveway, I think.
Mm.
And we used to crack those. We made a terrible mess because the black walnut tree had black walnuts. And we used to get a big rock and crack those hard walnuts so we could get a little bit of that. Really,
I remember that now. Yeah.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
we also, we couldn't afford fireworks, but we did get jacks. And so we would pound those jacks and make them pop. And do you not remember that? The strip that would go into a gun, into a,
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, we used to have pistols that shot those little
I think maybe there was one pistol for all of us, so the rest of us had to pop them with rocks.
Oh, a cap, the little cap thing, the cap gun.
Yeah,
The cap gun,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
I-
but we also made our own pistols with rubber bands and clothespins, right, Bruce?
Yeah, right.
I,
Another
I
thing,
played with those I remember playing with those in Virginia and Las Vegas when I was a kid too,
Hmm.
for whatever it's
Oh,
worth.
also in Toppenish, I had a cyst in one of my in the gum under one of my teeth.
Huh.
And just to give you perspective on how things have changed, Mom sent me to the dentist. I walked to the dentist
Hmm.
in town by myself.
Hmm.
Had the tooth pulled, I think is what they did, and walked home. And then we had Christmas tree lights, and one time one of the lights was out. And Mom sent me to town in the dark at night to Montgomery Ward's to find for another light for that Christmas tree. So because when one was out, none of them worked. In the dark alone. That's it's amazing that you could do that then, but you wouldn't want to try it now. But anyway.
True.
Toppenish
Yeah.
is a very, has a lot of violence, a lot of drugs going on, and it has become very unsafe to live there.
Well,
Bruce,
most places are safe
do
for
you
children.
remember the rodeos in Toppenish? And one time we got chased home by a drunk Mexican while coming home from the rodeo.
No, I don't.
You don't remember the rodeos? That's a big
Oh.
deal in Toppenish.
Yeah,
Well-
You remember the cannery where Mother worked?
no, I don't.
Okay.
Well, Bruce, do you recall climbing out the upstairs window to sit on the roof to watch
Yeah.
the fireworks that went off at the rodeos a few blocks away?
I remember climbing out the window, the dormer window onto the roof for
Right.
lots of reasons. I don't remember. I remember the fireworks. We used to roll our skates down there. I remember
Oh,
we'd
gosh.
roll our skates out the window. And of course, then we were kind of destructive children, I think. And
I think we were. Oh, how awful.
we were probably not real pleasant renters for a house. That was
Well,
a nice house, though.
But Daddy had purchased that for
Go ahead.
$6,000 with the GI Bill.
Uh-huh.
He purchased what, Kamillia?
That house was purchased from the Suttons. Daddy used the GI Bill at that time.
He
And my
purchased what? He purchased the house?
602 South Beach Street.
We owned it, we didn't rent it?
No,
No,
he
what?
purchased it. Now I can't be absolute, but this is my memory. He had the GI Bill. And so he was able to purchase the house with the GI Bill. And
Oh, I didn't know that.
my memory is it was $6,000.
That was expensive because my first house cost $4,000 many, many years later.
Well, I could be wrong. I mean, I don't swear to it, but that's been my memory for all these many years. Not that that matters.
So that was the house in Toppenish, not the house in Dishman? That brand
No.
new house that?
No, we're talking about Toppenish. Are we,
Right.
Kamillia?
Yes, we
Yeah.
are. I never lived in, remember, I was married
Yeah.
at that point. So my memory of all of family things stops with 16, the age of 16. Anyway, but
Yeah.
please,
Back to Yakima, because isn't that Yakima and Carmen lived in Wapato?
yes,
And how did you meet him when we lived in Toppenish or when we lived in Yakima? How'd you meet Carmen?
I met him at a Halloween dance. It was a church Halloween dance.
Oh,
And I saw him for the first time. The Hardys had just moved in to the ward, which included Wapato.
oh, did
And
it?
and Daddy had me dressed as a Boy Scout. And all the girls sat, in chairs by the wallflowers. And we saw this boy we had never seen before. So handsome. You don't mind if I glow just a little bit. And he was so handsome, and he walked toward us and he asked me to dance. So I fell in love, of course, right then. He didn't particularly, but when we moved to Yakima, I set him up with a blind date. I don't know where I got the courage, but I did. And so that started it. Anyway, so there you go.
So the dance, was that a Yakima or a Toppenish dance?
And that was when we lived in Toppenish.
Okay. I remember hearing people in Yakima talking about how beautifully Kamillia and Marcel sang.
Oh, you're
Evidently.
kidding.
There's people who thought that.
I wonder if it was tongue in cheek, because that's where we giggled our way through a song in church, and Daddy had to finish it.
I didn't know any better. I thought you guys were beautiful singers. So,
Well, thank you. Well, actually, I think we were, but nevertheless, we couldn't stop laughing when we were in
Kamillia and Marcel are always,
sack meeting.
Kamillia and Marcel are always curling their hair.
Pardon?
You and Marcel were always curling your hair. I mean, back then you just didn't go out without doing something to your hair first. You had to curl your hair and look all nice. People go to town now in their gym shorts and all kinds of crap. And back then, when people were going to go to town or to the store or whatever, they dressed up. And I still remember Kamillia standing in front of the mirror, I think in Toppenish in the living room or somewhere, curling her hair, doing her thing. And lipstick was very much in vogue.
Yes, it was. Anyway, this is your story, so I'm not going to go on with my memories. But
It's nice to have add-ins. In Yakima, we lived right in the middle of orchards. There was orchards all around us. And when it was going to frost, the orchard owners would all light smudge pots. So we would wake up in the morning, I remember, with a black nose,
yeah,
breathing the smudge pot all night. And then they would also spray, which I don't think was very good for any of us. I think that had some bad after effects. The kind of spray that they were using. Definitely enjoyed the fruit. We would pick fruit wherever we were going. We could pick a peach, an apple, a pear, whatever. There was always fruit around. It was a nice place. And I remember walking, it was at HM, the grammar school, HM Garfield Grammar School.
It was Garfield School, yes. And those apple orchards ruins my appetite for apples because they were fresh right off the tree and you can't get them anywhere anymore. And so I just can't eat the apples anymore because they don't taste the same.
Yeah, well,
no, they don't.
I still
But
enjoy
Bruce, I think Garfield School was was that Lincoln?
No, it was Garfield. I think it was Garfield. I went there recently and I have pictures of it. I've got quite a few pictures of the school, and I have a diploma from Garfield for being on the patrol, to help the students cross the street, all that stuff.
I wanted that so badly.
Lincoln School was in Toppenish.
Okay, I mixed up then.
We're talking about Yakima right now, and it was Garfield.
I remember standing in line where certain people who made certain incomes were eligible for milk. They had these little cartons of milk, and you could have either regular sweet milk or you could have chocolate milk.
Yeah.
I love that chocolate milk. That was really something. But for some reason, sometimes at night, I'd be walking through the orchards up to the highway to go to the store or go to school. And
there was a shopping center up there.
The orchards there was always pheasants in there. So I'm walking through the orchard at night alone, imagining all kinds of things, and all of a sudden it just pheasants fluttering up. Scared me half to death. But, the hill there between, there's an orchard on one side and then houses being built on the other side. That's where we sleigh ride, did a lot of sleigh riding on Grandpa's sled. But also at the middle school, had a terraced area, and we'd ride down that terraced area on the sled.
Uh-huh.
And if you did it wrong, you'd go in the air and then you'd hit it at the wrong place.
Oh,
and it
yeah.
could hurt.
It was kind of dangerous if you didn't do it just right. That's where Marcel had appendicitis
Yes.
from chewing her fingernails, had fingernails in her.
I wonder where you got that. I
And remember the people that lived, huh?
Oh, we all, that she got appendicitis from chewing on pencils and her fingernails.
who did?
I thought Marcel got appendicitis because she chewed on pencils and her fingernails.
And
Well,
I believe
remember-
that.
I remember the fingernails. The pencils might have been part of it too.
She
That
should
was a
be
close
here.
call.
Well,
And-
just to
and-
note, the name of the junior high school was Ben Franklin Junior High.
There you go. Franklin Junior
Greensboro.
High.
Yeah, I
Greensboro.
remember that too. Well, anyway, Marcel's appendix did burst there.
Yeah, that was a close call. She had
Yeah.
ruptured, which is very dangerous. But Marcel and Mom both contracted polio
Right.
when we in Yakima, and I remember seeing that quarantine. Somebody came out and put a quarantine note on our door.
Yeah,
We were for 14 days or something. Didn't go anywhere.
that's right.
We played football with the neighbors though. They stood in their yard. We stood in our yard and we threw the ball back and forth. You remember that, Bruce?
No, yeah, kind of, yeah. There was some guy on the ward that was in the Air Force, remember, and he used to give us all those little motors that were surplus motors that they used in the Air Force, and we try to make things out of those little electric motors.
Was he out there from the Yakima range where they used to shoot the drones? You
I don't
remember
know.
that?
No, I don't. I don't remember what he did, but.
So
Um,
I've got a question. How, do you know about how old Marcel was when she got her appendix out and how old Marcel was when she got the polio?
Why isn't Marcel here to help us out?
Well, she
It
texted,
She would have been about 13 or 14 because I was 12 and she's a year and a half or so older than me.
But I got
Or-
married at 16. And I think when she had her appendix out, she was more like, how old did you say you were, Terry?
Well, when we moved to Yakima, I was 51 and 52, and I was born in 40, so I've been 12 probably. And then Marcel's at least a year and a half older than me. So it could have been a while after we moved there, but she would have been somewhere between 13 and 14, I think.
She was in junior high. So,
Yeah.
and so was I. So I think I was 14. She would have been 13. Yeah.
No, you couldn't be 14 in Yakima.
Why couldn't I?
Wait, just a minute. Okay, well, let's first identify the year that we're talking about. Then we can figure out our age. What year are we
Okay.
talking about?
51.
Okay, so I was 11. Marcel would have been 13 maybe, and you would have been,
14.
okay.
All right, moving on now.
Hey, Bruce, just really quick, how long did you say the quarantine lasted?
We
Uh,
really don't remember. I don't.
I remember it being 14 days, but I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Did they come and get you out of school, Ben, to bring you home when they found out about the quarantine? They did me.
Yeah, they did me too.
I suppose, I don't know.
And
Who's that that's asking the question?
I'm Nancy's daughter, Leah.
Oh, hi, Leah.
Hi.
Hi, Leah.
Yeah, I'm a racetrack. Also, was there that polio side effects for your mom and for Aunt Marcel?
Yeah. They had side effects for the rest of their life in terms of breathing and other things. I don't know. No crippling or anything like that.
They had a hard time breathing, for sure.
Mother would talk about the heaviness in her chest, even, even while we lived in this house. So, and she felt that was from her polio.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
I
I've
saw
never heard,
I saw one of those chambers, what they call those chambers they put people in,
Iron
lung.
lung.
iron lung. I saw on the restoration program on TV where somebody restored one. I can't imagine being in one of those iron lungs. That looked like a death trap. But anyway,
Yeah,
Mom and
definitely.
Marcia never were in one as far as I know.
I don't think we were. But do you remember our neighbor,
Say hi to Bruce. Yep.
our neighbor, oh, for heaven's sakes, I can't think of their names just now. But anyway, she and Daddy would get hot wool blankets and put them on Mother's body, on her chest, as she lay on a bed in our living room. I don't recall that happening to Marcel. I think Mother was more sick than Marcel was.
I think she was too.
You mean
Yeah, I think Mother was more sick.
you mean the people that lived are right on our driveway there?
Yeah, it's the Herrings, Mrs. Herring.
Yeah, that's right, herrings. They also had a tree of a particular kind of fruit that was unusual. I'm trying to remember what that is called.
I don't remember.
They also
And-
had gooseberries.
Yeah, they
And
did.
we loved their gooseberries. And we would go eat the gooseberries and she'd come out trying to act all tough and everything about, I'm gonna hang you children by your thumbs from the yard arm. And they had the first motorized the first lawnmowers that were motorized, they just put a motor on top of the real lawnmower. So they had one of those motorized real lawnmowers. I thought that was pretty cool.
It was
And
cool, but you know what? They never mowed their lawn.
A big old
I
iron
think,
tractor that was parked.
do you remember they're having rhubarb, Bruce?
Huh?
And making rhubarb? Do you remember they're having rhubarb and making rhubarb pie and stuff?
I remember rhubarb in Dishman.
Oh.
I don't
And
remember.
And in Toppenish, we had rhubarb also.
Steal the rhubarb in Yakima.
Rhubarb pie. A pound of sugar and an ounce of rhubarb. Anyway,
Said she'd hang you by your arms from the what?
gonna hang her by our thumbs from the yard arm. A sailor's term, yard arm on a ship.
Oh, okay. And
That
did-
sounds kind of threatening.
yeah, doesn't sound very pleasant to be hung by your thumbs in any form, but had she already had polio, or was she just willing to risk that she could get it to take care of your mom?
She didn't have polio.
She hadn't
No.
had it, so she was exposing herself to it to care for your mother.
I guess so.
Huh.
Who's the she that we're talking about here?
Mrs. Herring. But I don't think she was in our home that much.
No, I don't.
She made some kind of broth for Mother, and she helped Daddy with those. I remember them boiling those blankets, but that's just almost impossible. In any case, very hot wool blankets on Mother's chest. That's that's my only memory from Mother being ill at that time, except for I remember quarantine. I remember that. That's it.
You remember?
Bruce, do you remember the fire that we had at the house?
Yeah. Yeah, that caught fire underneath the furnace, down underneath crawl space.
No, it was
The fireplace.
wasn't it between the fireplace and the room next door
Right.
to the fireplace. That's what I remember. In any case,
Yeah, and there
do you remember?
we had a grate on the floor that heat came up out of.
Mhm.
And there was a grate on the.
Yes, we did.
That in order to heat the upstairs, which never really happened.
No,
When Mom and Dad would have a party for insurance people. And that's the first time I ever tasted shrimp. She made a shrimp salad with
Hmm.
little shrimp out of a can. And I
Hmm.
was just so hoping that there'd be some left after people left the party, and there was some left. I just loved those little, I think they call them popcorn shrimp now. But
Hmm.
we were up there looking through that grate the whole time the party's going on, wishing we could have that food. But,
Yeah, I remember that too, Ben, Bruce. Do you remember that we got boxing gloves one Christmas in Yakima?
Yeah, vaguely. I do
That was
remember
because
that.
I knocked you out after I got them. Just kidding.
Well, speaking of knocking you out, do you remember when Mom and Dad went on a trip and left, I think, Kamillia in charge?
Yes.
Yeah, I do remember that. I'll never forget that.
Kamillia is the oldest child, but you're the oldest son, and there's this
Battle.
a battle between the oldest daughter and the oldest son. And I remember Kamillia chasing you around the living room with a broom, jumping over the couch and squealing and hollering. She was really after you.
Yes, well,
Yeah, I
Terry,
did finally, get mad enough that I stopped and decided to defend myself, and we didn't have any trouble after that.
well, anyway, I think you need my side of the story here.
Oh, no, my side will do, Kamillia.
Terry was very early in thinking he had the priesthood. So he thought that
Oh,
being as
really?
he was a
Oh,
boy
really?
and he had the priesthood, so he should be in charge. So he was challenging me in every possible way. And I have a feeling, I mean, I have a vague memory. I don't know if this is true. You boys were on the roof and you dumped water on me from the roof
I
onto
don't
the,
remember that. I don't remember anything about me saying anything about the priesthood. I would have already have had it. I would be 12 and would have been a deacon, but I don't remember that persuading me to do anything.
in any case, it was, that was kind of a nightmare for me. But anyway,
Well, my
was.
recollection was is that, well, of course, this is childish things, but my recollection was that you bossed me in every single thing, and I couldn't do anything without your intervening. So it did get to a point to where we had to settle it. Okay, let's go on.
It's good to have these things resolved, you know, it's late in life, but it's good to have them fixed.
no, I don't. There's,
Anyway, the people, you'd go out the back yard and then walk along a fence, and there's people we used to go see further down, 2 or 3 houses down. And that's the first time I saw a television. They had a television, and of course the early televisions were the same cabinet as the radios were, the old oval shaped cabinets. And they put
I remember Bruce.
the screen was about this big, right in the middle, about the size of a speaker, and maybe it was where the speaker went. And he was watching a boxing match. That's the first television I saw.
I agree with you there, Bruce.
I think that's about it for Yakima, except my favorite puppy got ran over. That was pretty traumatic.
I remember that broke your heart, and it broke my heart to have you crying and to know how brokenhearted you were.
Really loved that puppy. And,
Yes, yes.
we were best friends.
I guess I don't remember that myself, so I can't remember the dog or his dying, either one.
I think, Bruce, I was walking, weren't
He
we
went
walking to the, weren't we walking to the store?
Right, and out on the highway, and he was run over.
Yeah.
So I wasn't there, presumably.
I
And
don't know. I just know I wasn't, Bruce was, but
in Yakima, there was water chestnut trees outside the church, not in the churchyard, but close to the churchyard. We really thought those were precious jewels when they took the shell off and they had the polished horse chestnut.
the chestnut, yes, those were jewels, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. And there's where we put pennies on the railroad track. the railroad track went right by the church
In Yakima?
in Yakima. And
Oh,
we,
I remember doing it in Anaconda. I don't remember doing any of that in Yakima.
well,
Well,
anyway,
anyway, I should take this opportunity to apologize to Kamillia for asserting my authority at the young age of 12 years. Sorry, Kamillia.
Well, I'll think about forgiving you, Terry. It's been a while. It's been a struggle. Anyway, it's okay.
so we'd put the pennies on the railroad track, and of course, it'd thin them out and make them bigger, and that was quite fun. I think that's about it for Yakima. From there, we moved to Dishman.
I think you spied on Carmen and me.
Bruce, I think we went to Opportunity first.
Opportunity, you're right. Opportunity. And Dad was took a job as a salesman for that freezer rich plan.
Yeah,
Freezer.
sure.
And so we ended up with a freezer in the house filled with frozen juices, and that was such a treasure. We really enjoyed those juices until they were gone, but then that was it. We built
And that was that Yakima or Dishman?
Dishman, Opportunity.
No, he's talking about Opportunity right now. Opportunity was a little town.
We
It was
had-
a
Oh, it was
little
a
town
town.
outside of Spokane.
We had
I've
we had a
never
big
heard
house.
I've never heard anybody mention the name Opportunity. All the family research I've been doing the last couple of years, that's the first I've heard of a town called Opportunity.
Well, it was there, and it was a little bit on the outskirts of Spokane, and it was the first place we moved. It was a nice house. It was a present to Mother that she didn't appreciate, I'm afraid, because of the expenses of it. But anyway, it was where Dad first started selling frozen food. Go ahead, Bruce.
Opportunity, Washington, and we built a great big house, fort, whatever, outside out of cardboard. It was fun, but we didn't live there very long. There were just
No.
when we moved, I'd made friends with a boy across the street, and it was really the first friend I felt like I had, I guess, because I felt really close. It really tore me up to move.
Hmm.
And so then we moved to Dishman. And that was closer to Spokane than Opportunity, I presume. Pretty close to the LDS church, with a Catholic church right between us and the LDS church. So we would have to walk through this dark spot to reach the light. Anyway,
I don't remember the Catholic Church, Bruce. I have photos that show the LDS Church without showing a Catholic church.
okay.
You-
Might have been imagination, but
But these are your memories, Bruce, and so
Yeah, that's right. It's Bruce's memory.
I'm finding,
I'm just saying I
I'm
can't remember
finding
the
it very-
Catholic Church.
the
I'm
house,
finding,
the house had a furnace in the floor like Yakima did, with a grate, and we would stand on the grate to get warm, but we slept upstairs, and the house was made, the inside walls were slat with plaster on the slats, and upstairs most of the plaster had fallen off the slats, and Dishman was a very cold climate, and so sleeping upstairs, we would put everything, including the door, on our bed to keep warm, and had a long string that I strung that would go to the light to shut the light out, where I could do it from being in bed because it was so cold. It was a very old house, very cold house. It wasn't very pleasant at all. Christmas that we had there was actually a time when we were Mom was so low on food that she actually received help from the church welfare program. I remember bringing flour and sugar and stuff like that. And
That was when Dad headed out to Michigan to explore his opportunities in Richland further.
for Christmas, there wasn't any money to buy presents with, but Dad gave me Grandpa Chandler's watch, the pocket watch that Grandpa Chandler had when he was working for the railroad.
Hmm.
Hamilton, one of those Hamilton watches that the railroad people, so I still have that watch.
Oh, that's great.
On another occasion, and I don't know that it was the same one, but he gave me his black onyx ring. You remember the black onyx ring that Dad used to wear?
That was
I
his-
think I remember, Bruce.
Black onyx ring and pocket watch. So things were pretty sparse in Dishman. Pretty
Yeah.
sparse. I had a paper route, and I would go out early, very early in the morning, which I was always early up, and roll up all my papers and put a rubber band around them and put them in the bag that I carried them in, and go around and throw the papers. And not only did I throw the papers, but then I also collected the money. And I don't remember what I did with the money. I went on down the line. I just don't remember that part of it. But I did.
Bruce, you would buy bananas and olives and bring them home, and we kids would eat bananas and olives with you. Now, why you bought, I remember the bananas and olives. That's what I remember. And I have really enjoyed this, but I've got to go to a meeting. Love all you guys. I'm going to leave, but my girls are taking notes.
Thanks, Nancy.
I bought those green olives. I loved, for some reason, I was so hungry for those green olives. But I don't remember well, I do remember it now that you mention it, the bananas and the olives. So that's, and then also I made enough money there that I loaned some money to Kamillia to go get married.
No, it
And-
must have been
You
Marcel.
want Kamillia money to get married?
Well, I was already married by then.
Well,
It was probably Marcel, because
maybe.
I think she married in Dishman. But go
Yeah,
ahead.
Marcel was still hanging around in Dishman some, and Ken would come to visit us.
It must have been Marcel then. So she still owes me $100 if anybody sees her.
I'm
But,
glad it's not
I
me.
also had some money from the paper out that helped Dad start the Hovey stick thing after we moved to. At least that
South
was.
Carolina.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but anyway, that's what somebody said. But there was a swimming pool, public swimming pool. I just couldn't wait for that to open. I'd say, Mom, can I go swimming now? It's not warm enough. Oh, it's 60 degrees, Mom. Can I go swimming? Just begging to go swimming. And it was a pretty nice pool. The water was cold because I think he pumped it right out of a deep well. And that was the blue suede shoes, pink pants and blue suede shoes and all that stuff period of time when we were there.
Really?
Yeah,
Where did you live then?
Dishman.
In
and Dishman.
Dishman.
In Dishman, okay.
Yeah, I dig 15 tons and what I get, another day older and deeper in debt.
Yeah.
That was a popular song at the time. And just to remind Bruce a little bit, I remember that summer, I think it was the last summer we were in Spokane, and it never got warm enough to go swimming. Now, you may have gone swimming, but it wasn't warm enough, Bruce. It was cold that whole summer.
Yep, well, I think I went anyway. We went to work on the welfare farm too. Remember that.
What was the welfare farm in Spokane? I don't remember it.
I think actually we were helping clear the sagebrush for a farm.
Yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah, there was rattlesnakes out there too.
Yeah.
And we had to wear boots to keep the rattlesnakes from biting us. Is my
Oh.
recollection.
I have to leave, but I'll be right back, okay?
Yeah. Okay, Dishman. I remember that riding my bike early in the morning. Snow was frozen and the bike, it would make that crunching sound. I like that crunching sound as you're riding your bike through the really frigid cold air and snow. Paper route was a good thing. From there.
What school did you go to in Spokane, Bruce?
What school?
Yeah,
It was just.
you didn't go to West Valley High School, did you?
No, it was right there by the swimming pool. It was that school that was close to the swimming pool.
I can't remember the swimming pool. I'm sorry.
It wasn't too far from the house. And I think it was Michael O'Brien, the O'Briens that were part of the ward there, and the dad was in the Air Force. And anyway, that was one of the friends that I had from, I didn't never have very many friends in school. From there, we went to Columbia, South Carolina. And we didn't live there very long either. Columbia was quite a climatic shift from Spokane.
So about how old were you when you went to Columbia?
About 12, I
It
think.
was a spring, it was between Christmas and New Year's of 55, 56. So Bruce can calculate his age,
Maybe
probably
13,
14 to 15, 13 to 14, somewhere around there.
That was a nice colonial brick house with big columns in the front.
That was Casey, yes, that was Casey, South Carolina.
Casey, yeah. I went on a camping out, a camp out with some other Boy Scouts to a place, it was below a dam, and there was these big ledgy rocks, and we would race around on those ledgy rocks. And I happened to miss one that was sticking up a little bit and kicked it with my feet and pulled all the ligaments of my toes on that foot. And by the time we were home, it was extremely painful. And Mom had some sleeping pills for some, I don't know what, but anyway, she gave me one of her sleeping pills, and I slept for a day and a half. And by the time I woke up, my foot was feeling better. That was amazing. And then we had those 45 RPM records that we listened to. Mom liked to listen to classical music. I did too. I listened a lot to classical music. And we had bigger records too, but we had the little 45s. I think we there we had the Mormon Tabernacle Choir records and other music of that sort that we listened to.
I'm sorry, I'm back. Where are we now?
We're in Brooklyn, Casey, South
Oh,
Carolina.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what school did you go to in Casey, Bruce? I went to Brooklyn Casey High School. Where did you go?
Well, it was a grammar school. It was just opposite, not too far. I don't remember the name of it, but they butted up against each other.
Okay.
I remember the language was different there. I went to school one day and my husband had appendicitis last night, and I had to carry him all the way to the hospital.
I know.
I took it literally. I thought, man, she picked up her husband and carried him all the way to the hospital. Whenever they would say, you don't want to go to the store, can I carry you to the store? That's how they. That's
right. They all spoke that way. I'm going to carry you here and there and yonder.
They had a lot of lingo that was very different. Knee-high grape drinks with nuts in them. Knee-high grape, knee-high orange. It was really good, very popular back then.
Did the kids ever tease you about your accent, Bruce? Your northern accent? Did the kids ever tease you about it?
Oh, don't recall that. No.
So I want to interject something here from my this wasn't from when I was on my mission and I was in South Carolina, they called winter hats, like a cap that you would wear, they called them toboggans. I remember going to a lady's house on a cold winter night and she said, "Elder, where's your toboggan?" And I said, "My toboggan?" She said, "It's too cold, you need a toboggan." I thought, why? And I'm thinking of a sled. Why does she think I'm carrying around a toboggan? So I'm just wondering if you guys remember that from South Carolina or not.
I don't recall.
There's no snow in Columbia to speak of, and not cold enough for people to talk about that. You were up in the mountains of Greenville area,
This
or
was
in the northern. Northwestern
Yeah,
part of the state, probably.
this was Rock Hill, South Carolina, just south of Charlotte, North Carolina. Anyway, I just thought that was the funniest thing that they would call a ski cap. What I call a ski cap, they call them toboggan, and it wasn't toboggan, it was toboggan. Elder, where's
That
your
area,
toboggan?
that area already is colder than Columbia because Columbia is down on the plains.
Okay, anyway, all right, sorry, just thought when you mentioned funny terminology, I remembered some.
Mom would give me money for buying lunch at school, and we lived close
what?
enough to she'd give me lunch money,
Oh,
but we lived close enough to the school that lunch money until I had enough money to buy my first 22 rifle.
Oh, my
wow.
goodness.
I still have that single shot 22 rifle that I bought
Amazing.
from lunch money.
I guess I'm lucky I didn't get shot by it.
Yeah, I guess so. People were quite enthralled with the big muscle cars back then. And that's about all I remember about that. That's my first girlfriend was Yvonne, Elizabeth Black. The Blacks were in the same ward.
And what was her name?
Yvonne.
Why do I remember
Oh.
that?
Yeah, Yvonne Black in Columbia, South Carolina, yeah.
So I
I
sort
have-
of
Bruce, I have some of your letters from Yvonne and you, between you and Yvonne. I don't know how I came about them, but I got them.
I didn't know there were any, but
Well, I inherited all kinds of stuff.
we had gold and green balls back then, and I remember going to a gold and green ball, and there was another fellow in the church, and there was two girls, and he said, "I'll take this one, and you can have that one." And it worked out just opposite. The one he thought he was going to have, Yvonne and I paired up, and so we had a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship for a while.
in fact, didn't until when, Bruce?
Well, actually, we moved from Brooklyn Casey to into Columbia.
Mm.
And so we were there for a while too, right across the street from the church. We were still always late, even though we were closer and didn't have to travel, we were still always late.
No. Yes.
A Compton trait goes way back, a lot of genetics there. Remember when to go to a church on the way home from church, Yakima, Toppenish, Dad would stop at a fruit stand and buy a bunch of bananas and stuff.
I don't remember that.
Later on,
Yes, in Columbia, there was a place on Fort Jackson Boulevard where it split with another main road going out of town that had bananas, and Dad would buy bananas there frequently. Yes.
yeah.
But going back to Yakima, Bruce and Terry, do you remember having to push the car because Daddy ran out of gas
Yeah.
just to get
I
home?
remember having to push it to get it out of the garage in Spokane, Dishman, so that he could get it out there because it was 20 below zero. He couldn't get it started and he needed to go to work.
Mhm.
And I don't remember how he eventually got it started, but anyway,
And
Dad always had cars that wouldn't start.
in Yakima, he bought a new Hudson. Remember that beautiful, was a green?
1948 Hudson.
And we thought that was pretty cool.
Mm.
But another thing about Yakima,
Now,
since
can I intercept here just a minute? That's the car that Kamillia and Carmen inherited, and then I inherited from them.
Go ahead,
Who-
Bruce.
who inherited it?
Well, it was, Dad gave it to Kamillia and Carmen to drive back to Provo after they had been in South Carolina for a while. And that would have been in 1958. And then I followed and went out to BYU to go to school, and they passed it on to me.
Oh, the windows were so small. We thought it was so cool, but when you look back at those old cars and those real thin, slender windows.
Yeah.
Another thing in Yakima that I forgot to mention that's very important. Mom and probably the girls were doing some canning, and something came up where there was an argument going on or something. And Chad made up this new term. Chad would have been 3 or 4, whatever. He said, "Oh, can it?"
That would have been in Dishman, probably. No, he was
No.
3 or 4. He was born in Dishman. So
That
Chad
would have
was
been, if he was 3 or 4, we were in Columbia then. He was
um,
too young, he was too young to be making up things in Dishman. It would have had to been in South Carolina.
no,
I believe.
this was in Yakima. It was somebody that made up that phrase, "Oh, can it?" And I've always
Well-
thought it was Chad, but Chad wasn't born yet then, huh?
no,
No,
but he
he
could,
wasn't.
maybe he was around.
Yeah.
Could it have been Jay?
It could have been.
Um,
Yeah, it could have been Jay.
It might have been.
That
He was,
was, that was a slang term, that he came up with, "Oh, can it," which meant just forget it, shut up, go on, move on, whatever. So we moved to Columbia across from the church. And that was really a fun time. There was a fellow that was, there was an army base there, which Terry later worked on. An army base there, and one of the guys stationed at the base was coming to church there, and he took us young boys under his wing, and we did all kinds. We started a baseball team. We did a lot of fun things together.
His name was Bob Johnston.
Yeah, there you go.
Bob Johnson, I think it was.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah, you're
real,
right, Bruce. He was a wonderful leader for the youth at that time.
it was a real blessing. Did we move back to from
We
there?
went over to Suber Street.
Where was it? Back in South Carolina, you could have your driver's permit at 14 and a half and a license at 15. When I was 16, I was driving a school bus. And it was
Really?
parked right beside that house. What was that house? We had a TV there. That was the first TV. Had an upstairs.
Well, we had a TV in Brooklyn, Casey. I remember watching some weekly thing on TV in Brooklyn, Casey. But
Okay.
that
Yeah.
would have been 1956, 57. You would have been 15. I don't think you got to 16 yet. Then we moved, you say we moved across the street, and I'm not sure the order of this, but we moved across the street from the church, and then we also lived on Suber Street. And that may be where you were, that was the last place we lived before we moved to North Carolina.
That's where I was driving a school bus,
Yeah.
a big passenger school bus. That was quite exciting, quite an honor.
By that time, I was gone to BYU.
Special, yeah, you were. I remember that now. Dad had bought this Lincoln Continental.
That's the one actually that we
Oh,
drove.
No, it was a Chrysler.
Chrysler.
Yeah, Chrysler, right.
Chrysler.
And that's not the one you drove out to Utah, Kamillia. You didn't drive a Chrysler out there.
No,
Anyway,
we drove
I-
Lincoln.
I drove
No.
that. That was
Dad never had a Lincoln. You drove the Hudson out
I
there.
meant the, I'm sorry, I meant the Hudson. Go ahead.
that was really a nice car. That was a big, heavy muscle car of the time. And I drove it to school one day before I was driving the school bus. And all the boys were just doing and on over this big, huge car that I was driving. That was quite a privilege. But later on, I started driving the school bus. So
It was a classic car of its time. The only problem was they eventually found out that it had been in an accident and they had not secured the body to the frame correctly when they repaired it.
So what happened?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Bruce, do you remember how they got rid of that car or what? I know it
No.
caused some problems.
no, I don't. I remember it was a problem too. And it leaked. Water would come in because it wasn't fixed right. Through
It had been
the
an accident. It didn't get repaired correctly. But it was a wonderful car.
But it looked pretty awesome to drive to school, I'll tell you that for sure.
Yeah.
Bruce, when you drove the bus, were you a bus driver or that was your mode of transportation for your personal use?
I was a bus driver, picked up students on the way to school and delivered them on the way back home.
Mm.
Wow.
How old were you,
Bluebird-
Chris?
Bluebird body style, 50, 60 passenger, whatever. It was a big school bus.
Goodness, I never got a ride to school on a bus. I walked to school and walked home.
All the bus drivers in the Carolinas were students.
Really?
They weren't paid. You'd think how much money they saved, but they also had a better driving record than other states that had professional drivers.
Really?
Really,
So-
kind
Bruce, how old were you then?
of like midwives have a better reputation than doctors do. I was 16,
Yeah.
16.
16. Yeah.
Do you
And
remember?
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kamillia.
I just remember what a handsome boy Bruce was. That's all.
Aw.
Truly, because
We
I,
can just leave it at
what?
that. We can just leave it at that.
Why should I leave it at that?
Don't leave it at that, Kamillia. Tell us more about that.
Well, when I stayed with the family, because we were broke and Marcel and I, we went to South Carolina with mother and daddy's help. And I lived with mother and daddy until Carmen came at Christmas time. But Bruce and Terry were teenagers and very good looking. But I remember Bruce showing us some dance steps in Casey. And I
You
was
remember what? What did you say you remember?
Bruce was showing us some dance steps.
Oh,
And I remember being impressed that he was good, but I also
Mhm.
remember just what a handsome fellow he was.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess he wants me to leave it at that. So,
I'm saying it's a good place to stop this conversation. But
well, he was certainly much better at dancing and singing and all that stuff than I was.
Oh,
I don't
yeah. Come to think of it, you could always pick Terry and Daddy out of the congregation when we were singing. No clue about where the notes actually belong, but they were loud, so. Oh. and
Thank you,
remember-
Bruce. I've been told that a few times.
Remember Dad, even being deaf tone, he played the cornet when he was younger. He learned how to play the organ, he learned how to play the piano. He was the organist and the piano many times at church,
yes,
but he also had a tendency for apnea, where he fell asleep. And so sometimes by the time the talks were over and it was ready for the closing song, they'd have to wake Dad up because he'd be asleep on the floor up there on the podium by the organ of the piano, asleep on the floor in order to play the song.
yes, there are quite a few organ stories about Daddy. One is he was in Yakima. There was a microphone. I wonder what all that sounded. In any case, there was a microphone right at the organ and Daddy was clipping his fingernails so we could hear the clip, clip, clip. And another thing is he did fall asleep in Yakima and he had his hand on his chin and his elbow went down on the organ keys and kind of woke us all up. Anyway, Daddy falling asleep at the most inappropriate times is part of his history, I think.
It seems like I remember somebody telling a story that he laid down on the floor behind the organ by the choir seats in the organ and he started snoring back there and people could hear him snoring. Does anybody remember that story?
I think maybe Bruce has just told us.
Yeah,
Oh, did Bruce say he was snoring?
I don't remember him snoring, but I'm sure that was the case when he was asleep. He had a hard time staying awake driving too. And
That's where you get that from.
say hi, Johnny.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi,
Connie.
Connie. Hi, Connie.
How are you?
It's Lanaea.
Lanaea, is
Uh,
that Kamillia's daughter?
I'm here.
Marcy, no, Nancy's.
Who's the pretty young lady?
Is that Lanaea? Is that your name?
Both
Leah.
Lanaea
I'm
and Leah
Leah.
are there.
Leah's the pretty young lady. I'm the woman with glasses in the.
Glasses.
We both have glasses. I think we're. Yeah.
Well, and I have glasses too, ladies, so.
Well, anyway, I like your hair for what it's worth.
Well, I'm gonna say thanks for both Lanaea and I, because I know it can be either or, so.
From Columbia, we moved to Greensboro. And that's where I went to BYU from Greensboro.
Mhm.
So I want to interject here because again, I was on my mission in Colfax.
Oh, yeah.
and-
Colfax is where we went to church.
Right. And there were, when people there in Colfax found out that I was from the same Compton family that had lived there 20 years earlier, I heard lots of, and I can't remember very many specifics, but a lot of people were telling me stories about Bruce. Oh yeah, your brother Bruce this, and people pulled up their yearbooks and showed me pictures of Bruce and Nancy from their high school yearbooks. And the one story I do remember, and I know I heard a lot of stories, but the only one I really remember was when one guy in the ward took me over. We were in the church, and he took me over to a door, and he said, "Your brother Bruce kicked a hole in this door right here." I was like, "Wow."
You kicked a hole in the door?
I don't recall that.
That's what they said.
Maybe you got the blame, but you didn't do it.
Colfax, I used to spend the night with the people close by that grew tobacco. Now, WJ, and his family grew tobacco. Good members of the church growing tobacco. Seemed like a conflict of interest there, but they were sharecroppers, and that's all they knew how to do. And so I'd spend the night with them sometimes over there. And their house was board slats with the spaces in between. So it was really cold and breezy to spend the night in their house, but I enjoyed it anyway. And then I would help them pick the leaves off. I'd go there at harvest time and help them pick the leaves off the tobacco plants. And when they would set out the tobacco plants, they would put a watermelon seed periodically. So when it came harvest time and we're going through picking the leaves off the tobacco plants, there'd be this big, beautiful watermelon right there, and we just bust it open and eat it. That was really fun. But by the end of the picking of that day, we'd have black stuff all over us. So when there's this controversy about no tar and tobacco, I said, "I think you're crazy," because I experienced with picking it.
Really?
That was fun. WJ liked Afton. Afton fell out of a tree there and broke her arm. WJ came by just a couple of months ago. He keeps in touch. He's quite the guy. He's done quite a few things.
So
And
he came by to see you?
He
there?
came by the house here to see me. He's always asked about Afton. He really liked her, loved her, and I don't know what interfered with their coming together, but anyway.
I think it was Tom, actually. Because when he left on his mission, he asked Carmen and I to keep our eye on him, or keep our eye on her and save her for him. Well, we did not do a very good job because she was living with us.
I think he'd been a policeman, right?
No, he's been a constitutional sheriff. He's really up on freedom and liberty and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
He's also spent some time in Washington as a representative, I believe.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
What's
That's
his
Really
last
nice
name?
man.
that's where I met Pamela Gay Wagner.
Lawrence, I think.
Pamela Gay Wagner. And her folks were members of the church, but not real active. So we'd go by and pick her up and bring her to church, mom and dad in the family car, not me individually, and bring her to church and to dances and all that sort of stuff. I really liked her. She was really pretty, pretty girl. And I liked taking her to church, and she'd go with us sometimes when mom liked to drive up on the Blue Ridge Parkway and up through the redbuds, dogwoods and stuff were in bloom. She really liked to take that drive up into the mountains. And I remember going up there with us sometimes, and we'd sing the whole way. Mom, dad, and I and her sing songs about moon, what's that, Columbia Moon or something, and You Are My Sunshine, and all those kinds of songs.
Yes. And I do remember that you had a beautiful singing voice and could harmonize like most of our brothers. I guess I'll have to leave Terry out of this, but
Yeah, I guess I heard that comment.
anyway, it was quite beautiful. Your voice it still is very nice, but I remember that your singing voice was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And from that's where I graduated from Greensboro High. And I never liked school. In fact, I abhorred it with passion because I didn't fit in. My brain didn't work like public schools wanted your brain to work. I had no friends. I was I absolutely fit in. It didn't fit in at all.
That's tragic, Bruce. That's the case for my son, Ben, and many children. I worked on a project with educational psychologist that did studies on this, and that's a real tragedy in our educational system.
I think the educational system is a real tragedy. Anyway, I graduated from there. There was pretty good sized school, and I hadn't, because I loved to go to church. I loved to go to the dances. I was all leader and teacher, deacon, whatever, deacon or teacher, whatever, priest, wherever I was. Everybody looked up to me as a leader at church, and I really fit in, but school, I abhorred it. So I didn't do very well either until I decided I was going to attend BYU. So the last 2 quarters, whatever they call them, I did much, much better, just enough to be able to squeak into BYU under, what do they call that? Where you're
Provisional.
They're not sure if they're going to take you or not. You have a period of time where you have to prove yourself.
Provisional.
Probation.
Yeah, I love BYU. I love school there. It was just so different than the public school system. So I did really well at BYU and really enjoyed that. And after a year of that, of course, then I went on a mission to Texas. So
Wasn't
What-
Melvin
what-
R. Brooks, Joe Bruce, was Melvin R. Brooks your mission president?
Ralph Hill.
I
He
thought
was?
I thought Ralph Hill. I thought Melvin R. Brooks was one of your mission presidents.
Well, he might have been, and Ralph Hill took his place. I don't know, but I remember Ralph Hill because that was Dad's friend in the insurance business, and I knew him before, so
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know Ralph Hill was your mission president.
Ralph and Afton Hill.
Amazing.
So what year did you go on a mission then, Bruce?
I don't know the years. I would have been 19. I mean,
It would have been probably 61, a year after I left. A year or 61 or 62.
I was born, well, I was born in 62. You were born in 42, Bruce. So you would have left in 61 then at age 19. So I was born while you were on your mission then. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, by the time I came back from the mission, the family had moved to Silver Springs, Maryland. And so that's where I came back to. And
So you missed, so wait. It seems like I remember you in Virginia before we went to Silver Spring.
No,
We lived in,
I-
aren't there photos of you in Clifton, Virginia?
yeah, but that was afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Clifton came later.
You're
Clifton
right.
was quite a bit later than.
You're right. I
And-
got the order mixed up.
I married Linda Thacker, and then the war was going on, and I didn't want to be drafted, so I signed up for the reserves, naval reserves. Chose the option of being a corpsman, which was really a good choice, better than I knew. And after a year or so of that, I ended up going to Vietnam. And
Yes.
then when I came back,
Wait. How long were you in Vietnam? And I've always heard a story about you getting shot in the toe or something in Vietnam. Is that right?
that's correct, in the foot, not the toe, but
Okay.
in the bottom of the foot.
I remember what you told us, Bruce, when you came back. You, because you visited us, I don't know at what point on your return, but you said you were telling us about how you got shot. You were trying to help some other person because you were a medic and your foot was in the air. I mean, your leg was up. So you
Yeah.
got shot and you said, "Who shot my foot?" or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Up to that point, I was like a tourist. This is not my war. You know, I don't have a
Yes.
problem. You know, I really had a different mental attitude. Actually, the whole time, even after I was shot, I still had a good attitude about it. Except for that moment when I realized that somebody had the gall to actually shoot me. But
I would like to bring up another memory of you, which is when you were at BYU, we were in YView.
yeah,
And
and another
yes, sir.
Cracker Rock house.
yes, it was kind of the same sort. But in any case, Terry had gone on his mission and he left you to take care of Lily D. So it seems to me you kind of escorted her about sometimes. But the one thing I remember so well is you made a German chocolate cake. And I had never tasted one before. It's still my favorite chocolate cake.
Well, the South is where I learned about German chocolate cake
Really?
and Southern hospitality. It was a good thing for the family to move to the South when I was really growing a lot in teenage years, because everywhere you go, they want to feed you.
True.
You go in their house, you want some chicken and biscuits. They had chicken and biscuits all ready to go. They'd have a pan sitting on the counter with flour, baking soda, salt, everything in it. And they could pour a little liquid in there and ball up the biscuit in no time at all, a deep fat fryer, put in some chicken. And so it was a very good place to go. Because before that, I was never full. I mean, I would eat till my jaw was sore, but never full. I remember in Greensboro, Mom would bake bread. There'd be a crate that we'd put on the back porch for the milkman. You put the empty jugs in the milk crate, and in the morning he'd come take the empties out and put more milk in. She'd bake bread and she bottled peaches.
Mhm.
And I'd come home from school and I'd eat a bottle of peaches, a loaf of bread, and a quart of milk, and still not be full.
Well,
And I remember she went, was it Greensboro, where she went to work for big, what's it called? Big,
Johnson and Johnson.
yeah, the restaurant.
Yeah.
But she couldn't stand to be away from us, so she didn't work for very long before she quit the job in order to be at home. I'd always,
Johnson restaurant where they sold pecan ice cream, and not pecan, but what's the green ice cream? Pistachio ice cream.
well,
Mother
no,
worked there?
no,
Mother-
you and Lily D used to go eat pistachio ice cream at Johnson Johnson's Motel in Columbia.
That's right.
But
Are you saying that mother worked at a Johnson and Johnson?
big boy restaurants, and
Oh, she
Big
worked
Boy.
at Big Boy.
They were part of, who's that Mormon that had all those, still has motels? What's it called?
Marriott's.
Huh?
Marriott,
Marriott.
Marriott. Yeah.
Marriott bought out, Big Boy was part of Marriott.
Was it?
Anyway, Mom worked there for a while, but she couldn't stand to be away from us. So she came back. She really enjoyed, our home was always the gathering place for people after church or after a dance or anything. They never had a problem with me staying out late. I didn't like staying out late. I'd always come home.
And
My friends would come home because our house was lived in, not a museum. It was lived in, and everybody enjoyed it. And Mom would laugh and giggle when we'd tumble around. Or just having fun as children was very enjoyable to her. And there wasn't a couch you couldn't sit on. There wasn't a table you couldn't touch. There wasn't some knickknack that was off limits. We lived in our house, and so everybody enjoyed being there.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us, Bruce.
And I always enjoyed it.
I remember, Bruce, in South Carolina, and in Dishman, you helping Mother by mopping the kitchen floor in both cases, and in Dishman, making pancakes. It seemed to me you were, you and she had a special something.
Yeah, I remember actually mopping the floor in Toppenish. But I remember that occasion there in Brooklyn, Casey, cleaning up and helping. Mom was fixing lunch after church and stuff like that. And I was doing what I was doing. And you and Marcel came in and said, "You're sure gonna make somebody a good wife sometime."
Well,
I just rolled off. I mean, it didn't make sense, but yeah, I like to help out. And when I could, I did cook breakfast sometimes too. 'Cause I was always an early riser, so
mhm.
like to sleep in a little later. So I'd be around doing things while they were sleeping. But
Hmm.
Mom in Greensboro, she was out in the backyard. She'd hang the clothes out on the line, didn't have a dryer. She'd hang the clothes out on the line, and I don't know, something happened. Wind came up or something, and I was in the house, but I could hear her, and she said, "Damn it."
Well, she did not fall from grace, though, did she?
I was just shocked.
Well,
No,
I don't.
she didn't fall from grace. It's just something I didn't think that I'd ever hear her say. I
Yeah.
hadn't really thought about it. It's just one of those things that, wow, it just struck me. Yeah, she was a wonderful mother.
I think we all agree with that.
And she couldn't wait to get home and take off her girdle.
She
And
couldn't
her-
wait for.
Take off her girdle and her earrings that were those clip type that would hurt her ears.
Yes, yes.
People wore girdles back then. I don't think it's so popular anymore, but she did. I remember standing over once again, we had a furnace underneath the house with a grate with push air up into the house. And we used to stand over there and talk, and just kind of a gathering place in the house.
Mhm.
I love to watch her make bread, by the way, and I've always loved making bread myself.
Mhm.
I make really good bread, and I really enjoy it. She just had real good procedure and good moves, making bread, kneading it and forming loaves just right. And she'd put oil in the pan. And so she'd form the loaf, and then she'd dip it in the pan, and some of that oil was on it, turn it over, and then put it in the pan.
Do you
I
remember?
remember that.
Yeah, Bruce, do you remember the cinnamon rolls she made in Toppenish? The cinnamon raisin rolls?
No,
I don't remember the raisins.
Well, boy, she used to make delicious cinnamon rolls, and of course she baked bread in Toppenish as well. I would pay somebody $100 to make me a couple of cinnamon rolls like she used to make them. In fact, I've tried to hire people to do it. I've given them money, given them all the ingredients, but they don't come out the same as hers.
Well, I
What-
think I can do that for you, Terry, except I
Well,
haven't.
Which
think-
I think I know how to do it myself, except that I don't know how to get the dough to raise and everything to work out just perfect. But Kamillia, if we're ever together again, then let's make cinnamon rolls.
Now,
Okay.
wait a minute, Kamillia, don't steal my $100 here. 'Cause I make cinnamon, when you make bread dough, you can put part of it into cinnamon rolls and part of it into bread.
That's that's
And
how
I-
mother did it, and that's,
I do that too. I remember watching her rolling
Mhm.
out, the dough, putting on the butter, putting on the sugar, putting on the cinnamon,
Yeah,
Yes,
me too.
yeah,
raisins.
But you
and-
know, all the stuff you buy in the stores now, they use such cheap dough, they use such cheap stuff. It just isn't any good.
Well,
I-
you up the ante, and I'll make you some good dough.
so Bruce,
I get delivery.
Bruce, do you remember also, and Terry, on bread making day, mother would always, not always, I'm sure.
Oh,
I-
scones. Remember scones? Dough dogs?
Scones, that's what I was
Yeah.
about to say. Yes.
Yeah, I love
Scones.
dough dogs. I make scones there. Some people call them scones. We call them dough dogs, I think.
I think
Yeah,
that's
we
what they were called. I do remember that word too, but I
Yeah.
remember that when we would, sometimes when we would come home for lunch in Toppenish, and it was wash day. I don't know why, I think always it was, but probably wasn't. But I remember heaps of clothes that mother was washing with that wringer washer in those tubs. And it was bread baking day. So we'd have Campbell's soup and scones because mother would save some of the dough for scones. That was such a treat.
Well, do you guys
Yeah.
remember Dad frying wheat
Oh, yes.
with
Popping.
butter in the frying pan and then put wheat in it and frying it?
He was trying to pop corn, sort of. I mean,
Sort
that
of,
was,
yeah.
the version. Yeah.
That's
That,
one way to eat wheat. If you don't have a wheat grinder and you got some butter and some salt and some wheat, you can cook it like that and eat it. We did it quite a bit, actually.
We used to eat wheat cereal, unsprouted and crown, just the wheat itself.
yes, Mother-
That was pretty chewy.
that was very,
It was,
I think
yeah, it
mother,
was pretty chewy.
mother
You
was
just
so
soak it
good.
over, you soak it overnight and cook it in the morning.
That's what we did
Mhm.
on that wood
I-
burning stove. And
I-
that's how we heated the water for the baths. I don't remember. I remember taking a bath in the kitchen too, but we also had a bathtub in Toppenish.
We did, but it
Yeah, we
was
did.
very, very cold back there.
Yeah,
Um,
but the problem was we didn't really have, until we got the furnace going, which wasn't at first. We just had the wood stove and to go out at night and everything get cold. So somebody had to get up in the morning, get the fire going and get the house heated and the stove warmed up and everything going.
Then we had that oil burning heater in the living room, didn't we?
Yeah, we
Yes,
got
we
that
did.
later on. Yeah,
I think it was there, but we couldn't always afford the oil
Uh,
for it.
yeah, we couldn't afford the oil to burn it. That's right. So we chopped down all the trees in the whole yard and burned them all in order to stay warm in the
I-
winter.
Terry, I think all of the trees is a bit much. but You and Bruce
We tried, we
chopped
chopped
down,
down
it was
enough
a
of them.
big, big tree
Yeah,
out
we,
between
I
our house
remember,
and
I remember us cutting, me and Dad going out there with that 2-man saw and cutting down the willow tree. And we cut down other ones as well. So I know we cut down a fair number of them, but I don't know exactly how many.
Hey,
Well-
Kamillia, was, there's a family that mom and dad liked really well in Toppenish. Was that Whitaker's?
Was that what?
Whitaker's?
Whitaker, yeah.
Whitaker.
Are you talking about the
We used to go out,
vet behind us in Toppenish?
we'd go out to their farm and we'd play with
That was the Kempers.
Kempers.
Yes,
And they had a hayloft in the barn.
yes.
And we'd play up there in the hayloft, and
Mhm.
I don't know, I think it wasn't while we were there, but at some point children were playing with matches up there and burned the barn down.
I sort of vaguely remember that. I do remember their barn and their big horses, their big, those big workhorses. I-
Well,
Yeah.
who was the veterinarian that lived behind us, and was that Whitaker? The veterinarian?
No, that was Merrick's, the Merrick's.
Yeah,
Mary.
Merrick, right.
Yeah.
And we used to, actually, I know I was not much help, but I tried to be, because I loved the dogs and the animals. And when one of the collies had puppies, they gave me the runt, and we named her Penny. I named her Penny.
Yeah.
And of course, I broke my arm too. I think of our poor parents. Everybody had a broken arm, at least one, and or some other crises.
I didn't break my arm, I just stabbed it, that's all.
Well, you stabbed your
broke-
bottom as well.
You broke your arm, Leah?
What?
You broke your arm?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
I fell in Toppenish. We were gleaning cherries, and I fell from the cherry tree on the 4th of July.
I broke two arms, or I broke one arm 3 times, let's put it that way. And
You're
in
the winner.
Yakima, I fell out of the clubhouse we built and broke my wrist. And then in Spokane, I compound fractured both bones in my arm playing basketball in gym at Spokane. So I broke a total of 3 bones there.
In
Think of-
another video, I think it was Nancy and Jay that were remembering how Terry used to hit them over the head with the cast on his arm when they didn't do what he asked to do. He would use his cast.
Yeah, that was my wrist cast, because it had a bulge in the wrist. And so at that bulge there made a nice little knob, and you could hit anybody with it.
So
That's a
can you
nice
can you
memory.
have can you have sympathy for me when I was left in charge? When
No, I'm not gonna go that far, Kamillia.
no, he was.
Another memory that I have of the Kempers, and not necessarily them, but I remember it being in their yard.
Mhm.
Somebody told me that if you put salt on a bird's tail, you can catch it.
Oh, I
I've
think I remember that.
I spent hours in the Kemper's yard chasing birds around, trying to get a salt shaker to pour salt on their tail. I took things too seriously. One of my teachers told me that don't put anything smaller than your elbow in your ears. And I've been trying to do that for 60 years now. I still can't do that.
How funny. Yes, and I think some of those sayings that we're remembering, it would be fun. Well, 2 things would be fun. One thing would be to collect enough money to pay back mother and daddy for all the medical bills. But I don't know how we would quite do that. But in any case, another thing would be all the childhood games we played that no one plays anymore. Like kick the can, run sheep run, fox and geese, alley over, the roof or something.
Yeah, over. That's cool. Yeah.
Yes. And just all the ones we can remember, as well as sayings. And some of them are regional. The South was amazing to me, the 9 or so months I lived there. They were still, of course, Lincoln's birthday was nothing to celebrate. But it was still very, very Southern, very regional. In any case, though, you know, we are old enough that our childhood games are and sounds, screen doors slamming. When did you last hear a screen door slam?
Yeah,
Who
I haven't
has-
seen a screen door in a long time.
Those kinds of things. Just, I think our collective memories could bring up so many things that would maybe interest only us, but maybe not.
Kamillia, I have a request to make of you. I would really like it if you would paint a picture of Grandma and Grandpa Chandler's house on East Main Street in Weiser. I would really like that.
Well, trouble is, Terry, I can't see well enough to do that anymore. Sorry.
Well, maybe we can get Marcel to do it.
Yes,
Offer,
she would be.
offer $100. You didn't
I'll
offer
pay,
any.
I'll pay $100 for it, yes.
So is
Maybe
the house
approved.
still there or is it?
No.
Or do
No.
we have pictures? We've got pictures though, right? Even if the house isn't there?
We don't have very good pictures of it. I have a few. I tried to restore some pictures, but they were not very good. It's, that's why I would like one painted. And of course, the angle that you're looking at it and everything, that the pictures weren't taken with the art in mind and the whole business. So if we had a good artist who could remember the house and paint it and really make it look like it did at the time, that would really be nice.
Well, I
Lanaea-
think,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Well, we have Lanaea. I think she is a very good artist. Not
Yeah,
that
but she didn't, she wasn't alive at the time. She doesn't know what it looked like.
It just has to go back to pre-mortal memory. Can you do that, Lanaea?
Definitely.
Well, you know, premortal memories might be more, how should we say, factual than our memories. I think it's so wonderful to listen to. Bruce was at least 4 years younger than I was, and Terry 3 or something like that. And how we
How
see
old are you
things,
right now, Leah?
I have no idea. I can tell you, but you can't tell me. I was born in 1937, and now that you keep secret. In any
Okay,
case,
well, you're 3
don't
years
tell
older than me.
Terry, I want you to behave. Please, don't tell me. I don't want to know. But anyway,
Okay.
Okay. but what I do want to say is we see things from how high we are. If we're 2 years old, we have a very different take on what's going on around us. If we see things at 4 years old, 6, 12, everything is, memory is so individual and so wonderful, not particularly dependable. And I've come to know that about myself so well. But it really has to do with point of view, and our points of view have changed as we have changed. So I've enjoyed listening to the various memories Marcel and I have, even though we're just a year apart. We have different memories. And we are 12 in the same family. But there are some consistencies. One is how much we love our mother, how dear and precious she always was. One is how much fun Daddy was so much of the time. And those are our consistencies, I think. And the fact that, as Bruce described it so beautifully, our house was always a lived-in home that had all the scars to prove it. And our parents were always welcoming. People did enjoy being in our homes. And that's because we lived in them. And there was a lot of love, as well as arguments and whatever else. Well, I don't mean to be making a speech, but anyway, I love them.
Well
Very
said,
well.
Kamillia.
That's
And
about
I
out of
love
memory.
hearing memory. And what did you say, Bruce?
But about out of memory. The one other memory that came up was making Hovey sticks there in Brooklyn, Casey. No,
Mhm.
that other place we lived in, there was a garage and there was a grinding wheel, which cut those sticks to a certain length and run them on the grinding wheel and make notches in them, then put a propeller on them. And then we went to whatever the racetrack was to sell them during the races. That was
The
beginning.
Darlington 7500.
Yeah, Darlington. It was the beginning of Fantastic Toys, which emerged many years later.
That would have been
Oh.
1957.
And how old were you, Bruce, at that time?
Well, that's when I was driving the school bus, give or take. So I don't know, 15, 16.
15,
Born in 52.
Oh, Jay, Terry, do you remember that Nash Rambler that we had then?
You know,
And-
somebody referred to no recollection of it at all.
You were taking it somewhere, but the hood wasn't latched. So you're
Oh.
driving
Yeah,
down the
no,
highway.
wait a minute. Are you
and
talking
a-
about, okay, are you talking about Columbia, South Carolina?
Yeah,
Okay, well, that was actually a Hudson.
Nash, Hudson, they're the same,
That
but anyway,
the 1956 car, it had an underpowered engine and the transmission was jerky. Yes, I remember that very well. I drove it and I drove it rather fast at times that I shouldn't have been doing.
and then
But
one time we were in there with some of those other boys that went with us a lot of times.
Yeah,
And you stopped at a signal light. And back then you didn't have to push on the brakes in order to change the gears. So while
Okay.
you were looking, we're stopped and nobody's behind us. I dropped it into reverse.
okay.
And when you took off and hit the accelerator, you went backwards, forwards, and the car beside you was going forwards and you're going backwards. It's like whoosh.
Yeah, that's happened to me more than once. I know that's a strange feeling when you think the car next to you is taking off, but it's actually you going backwards. I hope nobody was behind me. I guess not.
Yeah, that would make me feel really dizzy.
Well, we all had a good laugh, except you, of course.
Yeah, that was an interesting car. How far did it go? I don't, I guess Dad still had it. He got it in a wreck, as I recall. He went to sleep driving home from somewhere, which was his normal thing, to go to sleep while he's driving. I don't know. When I left to go to BYU, I don't remember if we still had it or not.
It was around for quite a while.
Was it?
I don't remember exactly or how, but it was around for quite a while.
Can you guys tell that I don't speak with a natural voice?
Yeah, are you a computer, Terry?
No, actually, when they operated on my spine in my neck region, they damaged my vocal cords, so they had to go in and put a stent in my throat so the air goes through that thing. And so I make my voice through this artificial gadget they got. So my voice, that's why I never could sing, because it was anticipation of getting this that I couldn't sing.
I always thought that was an audio thing, that you couldn't hear the tones. How funny. Well,
No, actually, I do have this stent in my head that controls my voice, and it's a little higher, I think, than even it was before, and a little more, doesn't sound real some of the time.
Oh, you're doing
But
pretty
at least
good.
at least I can speak now anyway. For a while, I couldn't hardly speak.
You're doing pretty.
yes.
I
you're-
I won't mention that time in Toppenish. We had those gray military blankets.
Yes.
When you put a blanket over me and sat on me,
I did that.
I won't
You won't
mention that.
mention, you won't mention, okay, well, I can't remember, so I don't if you mentioned it.
Well, I
Uh,
remember we had in Yakima, you boys, one of you at least, slept in sleeping bags. And I believe it was Terry. Terry, you would zip yourself up in that sleeping bag and you'd slide down and you'd start screaming in the night because you couldn't get out of it. You couldn't, you couldn't see whatever. I remember rescuing you more than once, having to unzip you out of that sleeping bag. Do you have?
Well, it's really
That could-
interesting what people remember and what other people don't. I don't remember that.
Hey, you remember the time when you and I were in a squabble of some sort or another? And Mom had the philosophy that rather than find out who was right and who was wrong, she took us both and sat us in chairs back to back and tied a rope around us where we were tied together. Back to back.
Mother did that?
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
the mother-
Bruce.
the mother you love so much, she did that. And I don't know what it took in order for us to be liberated. I just remember we were there for a while.
Well,
You're
I
still
know that-
there.
Well, Marcial was a champion, not tire. So she untied you. I don't know. But when we lived in Anaconda, well, I remember 2 spankings, one in Anaconda. I have no idea what I did, but Mother broke a ping pong paddle over my bottom.
Well, you must have a pretty strong bottom.
Hmm.
And then
Right.
when I was, I guess, a sassy 12 or 13-year-old, and I was supposed to come down for family prayer, and I must have been grumbling. This was Yakima, because Daddy took me over his knee and spanked me. And I was a teenager, and he sent me into that room that was his office behind the fireplace. And I remember sitting in there fuming and thinking of how I was going to run away. Anyway, those are
I maybe shouldn't mention this. But when we lived in Opportunity, you and Carmen had not eloped.
we had eloped.
No, you hadn't yet.
I didn't live with,
No, well, okay, anyway,
no. We
I
eloped
remember
when
Bruce and I slept in the basement. And there was a room down there. And what
Yeah.
I can remember is that you and Carmen would come. Mother and Dad would take you down the basement thinking they were taking you down to a private place where they could talk to you, try to talk you out of some things. And I would lie there listening to the whole thing, the whole time. Because they didn't realize that I could hear everything.
what did you learn?
I don't remember anything other than that they were trying to persuade you of, I thought it was to persuade you not to elope, but I don't know what it was.
Well, actually, you're correct. In Opportunity, we came because I had stayed in Yakima to finish summer school. So we were planning on getting married. It was a plan with Mother and Daddy. And so we came together. He brought me to Opportunity. And we talked to Mother and Daddy about getting married. I don't remember that it was in the basement. I thought it was a living room, but anyway, they could not,
They didn't persuade
they
you.
would not be able to go to the temple with us because they were not up on their tithing, and they couldn't afford to be. So
Oh, okay.
it was about a month after that I went to Yakima and Marcial. We both went to see Ken and Carmen. And it was from there that Carmen and I eloped. So
It was,
you didn't
it was
learn
from
much.
there that you
really.
eloped.
It was, we eloped from Yakima, but you lived at that time in Opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, good. We got our memories together. Okay.
You took the opportunity to elope.
Yeah, we lived in Opportunity and you took your opportunity.
I did, and I broke my parents' heart. But hearts, I should say. They forgave
I
me,
did-
but
Why
What?
did it break hearts?
Well, because they thought we were, and they were correct, that we were still children. And they, and we had planned on going to the temple. And of course, we didn't do that. And we were sealed after we were married, but
Oh,
we just could not be separated one more time. And we felt it very strongly. So we eloped. So, and I would do it again. If I
Well,
could have
that's
it back.
just a name, that's just a name we give for one method of getting married.
Well,
Well,
when
if Dad had brought in some melons instead of talking to you and said, you can't elope,
Okay,
And
I got
somebody
that
else,
one.
somebody should have just said, just can it.
yeah.
hey,
All right, it's been fun, but I think that's about winding it down.
Well, thank you, Bruce, and thanks everybody for contributing. It's been wonderful. Again, I'm gonna post this on YouTube. I'll email you the link and you can share it with your kids, Bruce, or whoever you want to share it with. But this is awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bruce, I'd like to thank Bruce too, because I've enjoyed this time together here on Zoom to recollect the things that we shared together when we were young boys and exploring life and exploring everything. We had a lot of good times. And I do remember when we both played on the softball team in South Carolina. Bruce was second baseman and I was shortstop, right, Bruce? You remember that?
I'm not, sounds good. We also played basketball.
Yeah, we played
basketball.
basketball. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we had a good time. We had an enjoyable time.
Awesome. Okay,
Hey-
well, I'm gonna,
Hey,
I'm
just
gonna,
Arden, just really quick.
yeah.
It just occurs to me what a wealth of information you guys are. And I'm just thinking, wondering if Lanaea and I could schedule a time sometime to get some specific some memories from you guys that are maybe specific to our mom. And I know that's not your project, Artie, necessarily. You're more of a collective family and your parents, which makes sense. I'm just thinking our opportunity to glean some information from my mother's siblings is kind of a significant thing. So would you guys be game for for meeting again and just like sharing some things that you remember about her at some point?
And your mom is,
Nancy.
I don't have a lot of memories about Nancy, really.
Oh,
I have to confess that the biggest memory I have of Nancy is when they brought her home from the hospital, and they brought her home from Yakima, St. Elizabeth Hospital. We lived in Toppenish at the time, and I remember those kids spotted them in the car coming down the road. We ran alongside the car until we got into our housing unit, which was a World War II veterans housing unit, which I believe I found and have pictures of now, that World War II housing unit. And they're on my site, if they're on my Flickr account. But that's the biggest memory I have of your mother, is her birth.
Actually,
Unfortunately, I left before she was very old, but so I was not with the family for most of her growing up years.
Leah, I also left, of course, when she was very young. I do have some memories of her, but they are when she was very, a toddler, basically. I think the people who will have the memories of her would be particularly Jay, Annette,
Afton.
Afton, Jay, Annette, and those who grew up with her in the South mainly. I can say that I remember her as having white hair and quite a bit of it in curls. And at the moment, I just can't, that's awful. But you know, how I was 10 or 11 years older than she was.
Mhm.
And again, as I said, our memories have to do with our point of view. And my memories, of course, at that time would have been not so much of the younger children, unless they were tormenting me. And she wasn't, obviously.
Oh, I even appreciate those little tidbits. And as a second oldest in our family, and having the youngest sister be the same, my youngest sister be the same age as my oldest daughter and a little bit younger than Lanaea's oldest, I think we can probably relate, but just anything that you offer is sweet. So thanks for throwing those tidbits in. And we'll
No.
try to get with the other siblings.
I have pictures to accompany my recollection of the housing unit we were living in at the time.
Cool.
Yes, and I do remember, I think I might have said this to you before. When she was born, I knew that she was born on that day, and I was walking home from school. And it was a cold wintry day. But I remember thinking, I will always remember this day because of Nancy. I don't think I gave her a name, but because she was born on this day. And I have remembered it, but I think I've remembered it wrong. I remembered it as January 7, but I believe it's January 8. Am I correct?
No, you're right.
The
Oh,
seventh.
I am.
7th,
Oh.
yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know because, I've made promises to myself at different times in my life, and that's one of them that's stuck with me. I don't remember running alongside the car, but I do remember the day she was born. So,
Oh, I love
And-
that. Thank you.
and Terry, she was not born in St. Elizabeth Hospital. She was born in a nursing home in Toppenish. And Maureen actually,
I have her tag of from St. Elizabeth Hospital. Oh, come on in. Come on in.
well, it might have been when she had polio. I don't know.
Oh, it was her birth. I have her tag from when she was born in St. Elizabeth Hospital, Yakima.
Well, at the time,
Uh,
well, okay, we won't argue over that. Maybe she was. I
No.
don't know. Oh, I'm thinking of Jay. I'm thinking of Jay.
I mean, I scanned it in and I've looked at many times. And
Okay,
it says
so
St. Elizabeth Hospital, Nancy.
I'm wrong. I'm wrong. No problem.
Well, I don't know, but I've heard Nancy say she was born in St. Elizabeth.
So
So
okay,
I'm
I'm
a
wrong.
little, no, but there is an issue. There is an issue of somebody being born
It's
in
Jay.
Toppenish in
It was Jay.
Huh?
That was
Yeah, I
Jay.
think it was Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I can say this also, Lanaea and Leah, that your mother is, at least in my acquaintance so far, is one of the very sweet tempered lady, much like our mother. And if
That's true.
anyone reminds me of her, it would be Nancy. So anyway,
If we're about through, I've got a visitor, so I'm going to sign off. And
Okay. Well, I'm gonna sign off too, which means
Well,
you're all out
hopefully-
of here.
all right.
Bruce,
See you.
thank
Love,
you.
Thank you
love
so
you all.
much.
Thank you.
So good to
Thank
see you.
Thank you.
Bruce, thank you for
Right.
your memories, and Arden, thank you for doing
Bye.
this.
Okay.
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.